Hello friends, today I will show you how to use AstroCartoGraphy at astro.com. AstroCartoGraphy is what keeps me coming back to astro.com. Once you've logged in and have your birth data entered, you go to free horoscopes and interactive horoscopes, Astro Click Travel, which will take you to this screen. Here you choose the horoscope that you want. Today I will look at Barack Obama, and rather than clicking North America, it's best to use the scalable Google map. It'll give you more freedom of movement, and then click go. And here we have the map. I don't know how exactly this map is generated as far as the calculations of putting the lines, but these lines are supposed to represent the influence of a planet in the world, and with the idea that you can be more under those influences by moving there or interacting with people or things coming from those locations. Here you see the planetary glyphs on the outside telling you the lines. These circles here indicate maximum point of influence, and this one here is the birth. The cross with within the circle is the birth location and the maximum influence of a given planet. For instance, for Obama's sun, his sun line, the maximum influence seems to be Thailand and Malaysia. Thailand specifically. I don't know if he's gone to Thailand, but I do know that he studied in Indonesia. He spent some time in Indonesia, where you have these planets running through, including the moon, which is interesting to me because Barack also has the moon line going through the east coast of the United States, where he also went to school. In Indonesia, he went to school, to an elementary school where that moon line goes through, and in the east coast he went to Columbia University, which is right around here, New York, where also the moon line is going. What you do here, you match it with the horoscopes, his natal chart, and this is pretty sensitive. This whole thing is sensitive to fluctuations in time. You need an accurate birth time to use this map. 15 minutes, a 15-minute difference will render this map useless because the lines will move significantly. But with Barack Obama, his birth certificate having been released over that whole birther issue, we have an exact birth time. And there's some controversy whether he was born in Kenya. Most astrologers think that this is the right time, Honolulu, August 4th, 1961, 7:24 p.m. Seems to fit. Another thing you can do here is using or turning on the aspects. You see these clickable boxes here will turn on aspect lines, which will give you more information. So a lot of people look at this map and say, oh, Venus good, Moon good, and Saturn bad, but it doesn't really work that way. And Washington is there too. I also know that Obama spent time in Chicago. It's an important city for him. Rahm Emanuel from Chicago was an important part of his presidency. After college, Obama did community activism in Chicago. We don't see anything too close, Jupiter and Mercury, but let's see if the harmonious and disharmonious aspects can reveal. And yes they do. Look how Rahu square the AC go right through Chicago, exactly to Chicago. Indianapolis too, but I mean, we know that Obama spent time in Chicago, a very important city. Let's see what it says, because there is interpretation. You can click on these lines and get an interpretation. So let's see if there's anything in here related to what he's known for in Chicago, which is politics, rather, community activism, outreach, or something like that. Under the square aspect, encounters and joint ventures take place in a tense atmosphere. You may feel like a stranger and have trouble communicating your personal wishes. Those people with whom you try to come in contact may appear distant and cannot be located. So that's pretty interesting, because Obama's job here was actually to go in contact with people, have contact, go out there and outreach to the people, have contact. So that part fits. So going back to the moon, let's see if we can make sense of the moon at his birth chart. And let's say you're one of the when you're a person who prefers the sidereal, either they both work, because sidereal and tropical does not change these lines, but the interpretation of the lines could be different depending on which one you're looking at. So let's look at his sidereal zodiac, something I pulled from the internet, and we see that moon is in the 5th house, whose lord is Venus in the 6th in the sign of Mercury. And Mercury itself is in moon's sign, Cancer, with the sun. Very interesting. 5th house has to do with education. I found many instances of 5th house having to do with education. And we saw that the moon goes through Indonesia, where he went to elementary school for a while, and also Columbia University, where he went to school, obviously. And the moon is closely associated with Mercury. Let's look at his tropical. So here's Barack Obama's tropical zodiac, and this one actually has the degrees. And we notice that the moon is at 3 degrees, and Mercury is at 2 degrees in its own its sign that it's in, which is sextile to Mercury within 1 degree. So we see that the moon has a strong connection to Mercury, and here it's in Mercury's sign, and also in the 5th house, in the 5th sign from the ascendant. 4th Placidus, but the sign of Mercury contains the 5th house cusps. Notice also that Jupiter is very close to the same degree. Jupiter is at 0 degrees in Aquarius here, and it's trining the moon. 2, 3, 4, 5. Jupiter is very closely trining the moon. Venus is also on the same degree, or very close to degree, as the moon, at 1 degree in the sign of Cancer, which is moon sign, of course. So here we see that the moon is actually doing very good, although it also has Pluto at 6 degrees, Chiron at 5 degrees, not too far from there either. So that could throw some, that could be problematic. But we see that mostly the moon is very good, because it has the influences of 1, 2, 3 benefics. Basically, all the benefics are very closely associated with the moon. So, yeah, so he would do well anytime being around this moon line. Now, let's look at another person. The next one I will look at is President Trump, the current President Trump. And the reason I'm looking at these two persons is their whereabouts are somewhat well known. You can place them in the world at different times, so you can match how the geography fits. And also their birth time is known. Donald Trump has also released his birth certificate, so we know his birth time. Let's look at Trump's astrocartography, see what we can find. From looking at this map, I want to zero in on this line going through the east, because we know that Washington, D.C. is an important place for him. So let's see with Donald Trump. is working with. So Donald Trump's Mars is very close to Washington, D.C., his new residence. And very significant, of course. For Mr. Trump, Mars is a very important planet. It will always have the planet, the basic essence of the planet will always be there. In this case, you can expect a lot of fighting, a lot of friction and fighting along his line. Obviously, it has been proven to be true. Both parties, all the establishment in Washington, have been very hostile, and large portions of the population too have been very hostile to Donald Trump. Still managed to win. Enough people were voting for him to win. But his time in Washington has been very, very contentious, as you can see by this Mars line. So let's look at his horoscope. For Donald Trump's sidereal chart, Mars is in the 5th house in Leo. Mars rules the 4th house as well as the 9th. This is some kind of Raja Yoga, I must say. It's looking. It's got Ketu and the Moon there too. But for the most part, Mars is actually a very good planet for Donald Trump. Certainly, it's going to make him somewhat combative and aggressive. Certainly, as we can see, there's a lot of aggression going on with Mr. Trump. Both him being aggressive and Washington and pushing back. So our astrocartography seems to be working for the birth time that we have for Donald Trump. Of course, he spent a lot of time in New York and so on. So let's see what turning on the aspects can do. Okay, so now we have Saturn very close to New York. These are aspects, of course, and it makes a lot of sense for Saturn to be closely associated with New York. Saturn, the planet of structures, because he was building structures. Saturn, you can build a foundation. Build a big. You need Saturn to build enduring buildings. Okay. Also, I wanted to look at Las Vegas because he's been closely associated with Las Vegas. Trump casinos and so on. Trump Tower at Vegas. Let's see what's going on in Vegas. So we have Venus, luxury constructions, and Saturn's here too. So maybe constructions dealing with luxury things. We know he's been associated with the whole beauty pageant world, and that's Venus. Let's turn on the aspects, see if anything else comes up. Oh yeah, look. Turning on the aspects, Pluto runs right through Las Vegas. Very, very close to Las Vegas. Let's try that again so you can see. It's the harmonious aspect that brings Vegas to life. Let's see what Pluto, the line Pluto, is saying. Here you have power and influence at your disposal, both privately and professionally. Okay, that pretty much fits. I mean, he was pretty powerful in Las Vegas. Probably personally as well as professionally. Certainly professionally, Las Vegas has been good to Donald Trump. It's been powerful there. All right. We can go on and on with this stuff because we only looked at a little bit. But I mean, the whole world is represented. And it's not just you traveling to those locations, but interacting with products, things, and people coming from those locations, living in those locations. So, this is astrocartography. Use it, believe it, it's awesome.